I wanted to ask you what the significance of spring and the spring equinox is for us as First Nations people and Indigenous people in general.
Yeah, well, spring equinox is, as we know, it's a time when we think of getting out of that long, dark, cold winter and into a new season, right? It's a season. It's not just a day. We talk about spring equinox as being a day like the 20th or the 21st, but it actually is the beginning of a new season. And for us as Indigenous people, it's the beginning of something new, a new season, new life, right? A time to plant, yes.
Well, and so it's a new season. So what comes with that new season? I imagine there's herds of migration in terms of the animals and the food. I imagine that's got a big part to do with it. So what comes with the new season?
Yeah, what comes with a new season? Well, when we think of the bird life, for example, right? We think of those birds that go away for the winter to warmer climates and are coming back now. And it's nice to see the return of those migratory birds that are coming back now for the long summer, and also the ones that hibernate, right? Not only the animals, but the insects too that hibernate. They go also to rest for the winter, that long, cold winter. And now they're either coming out of their dens, hibernation places, or coming out of the ground, the insects and that come out. It also reminds us of the water and how important that water is, right? We talk about flooding, but we talk about also the water that has that spirit of life in itself, right? And that's really important for us as Indigenous people when we think about the season of in this time of the year, the spring season or a time of equinox.
Mm. And I know the sun and the moon also play a big part in this, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we know, the sun, when it crosses the equator, that day, that minute of that day, that's just a moment, right, when that sun crosses from the southern to the northern hemisphere. But, we think about that as the time that it happens. But what comes after that is when that sun, our days get longer, our nights get shorter. And of course, the warmth of the sun, everything that has life needs that sun, to warm the earth, right? Warm Mother Earth, so she can give life. And this is what it's about, right? That sun, and of course the moon cycles also are part of that to let us know, that the grandmother moon is also there to let us know what's happening. We have 13 moons, in a year, we say, right? And we think that each moon, like we call this the worm moon, you'll hear of that, the worm moon, yeah.
So can you sort of explain that, the worm moon for us?
Yeah, the worm moon, it's not worm, it's worm. Yeah, like the worm moon is when, the insects are coming alive, wherever they have hibernated for the winter, out of the wood, out of the ground, and we watch those that come out after hibernation. And we know that spring has arrived, our spring equinox is here to be with us until the beginning of summer. And that's really important that we teach our children and we teach each other about those times of the year, special times of the year.
Right. Well, you mentioned teaching others and why that's so important. How can maybe somebody teach either their children or their loved ones or a friend about how important this season really is? So, like, what can they do to maybe educate someone else? Well,
the best thing to do is to go out on the land, go out where the real life is, out on the land there with this beautiful sun we have even today. It's nice, it's warm. The wind is kind of blowing from the north. It's a little cool, but it's nice out. That bright sun, it brings us that warmth to the heart. And it's good to go out with your children on the land with this little bit of snow that we have on the ground. In a few weeks there won't be any snow, but we'll have water. And we should be out there teaching our children about how to respect, that water and that snow that's on the ground, because it's there for our benefit. It's there for us, and it's there for Mother Earth, And we should be teaching our children about those things. Mm-hmm. And not only the children, but one another. We should be out, doing walks, in the bush or wherever we might be, even in the city here. Mm-hmm. It's nice to take your children out or go on walks, And there's a lot of people, out there that are doing those things. But as Indigenous people, we like to pass that knowledge on, and show them that respect that we have for one another, but also for Mother Earth and for the sun. The beautiful wind that's blowing. We should be doing that.
Well, and it seems like spring can be a time where a lot of people, for whatever reason, just maybe it's just the seasonal changes, but some of their moods might get a little better come springtime. We're coming out of this winter, but does that sort of play a role in any of this? It just seems people are happier come this time of year. Is that something maybe that you've seen, or is that just more of a weather-related thing? No,
that is not just a weather-related thing, but it has something to do with the weather. It has also something to do with the warmth of the sun and the moon at night. It has those moon cycles have a lot of. We don't know this. A lot of us don't know that, but it really has. It plays on our emotions in many ways, and the good emotion that we feel, from those sources, it's that energy that we're feeling, right? And that's a beautiful energy. That sometimes, and it's a natural energy, it's there always, every spring, right? And we celebrate that in different ways, we celebrate that energy that is there for us. And it's nice to know that it's always there every year. We go through the same thing, and never fails us, right? Yeah, natural law never fails us,
Yeah, and it seems this is also a time for gathering. Why is that so important that we all gather together and celebrate this new time, this new season?
Yeah, well, gathering is really important, right? Gathering together as people and with our pets and with our children too, gathering together and just being there with them and with each other, right? I mean, there's lots of celebrations that go on this time of the year. Like I know in our Métis community, we celebrate, in different ways. Our First Nations people celebrate. We just had a big celebration back home. I'm saying back home, meaning Hall of Water, Manigatogan area, where I'm from. We just had a big celebration there on the weekend, and we call it our spring festival, and it's really good to see people come out and enjoy. I mean, you can go fishing, you can go, you can make fires, you can do all of those things, and it's so good to get together with family and with community, right? Mm-hmm.
And what's maybe your favorite part of this season and the equinox and just this whole time? Do you have a favorite part, or is it all just sort of as one?
No, I kind of like a little bit later than this yet. I mean, I like snow, but I like the planting season. I like going and planting trees. I try to plant some trees every spring, because this is a time when we relate to the trees. And spring equinox is a time that some will be taking their maple syrup, right? They'll be harvesting that maple syrup. And others will be harvesting other medicines from the trees, right? The trees that are older trees, right? But I like to plant young trees so that my children or my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren will have a tree that they can say, well, Grandpa planted this tree, right? And it's nice when you can have that relationship with the trees, but also with other plant life. Like I like doing gardens. I like planting seeds and watching, the garden grow. And I do that with my grandchildren. They like it and I like it, and so we do that every year. We have a garden up north in Manigatogan, and we also have a garden in our backyard here in Winnipeg. Yeah, and it's just nice.
So you mentioned you plant trees and stuff. Is that something people can do to sort of celebrate the season and like you said, be at one with the land and with the other creatures and that sort of thing? Like what's something maybe they can do or that to sort of celebrate the season?
Yeah, well, I mean, planting trees is something that helps our Earth, Mother Earth. It also helps our environment, right, to sustain its life in a good way. That is important. That trees, you plant a tree. It takes a long time for it to grow. But it's good to plant it and then watch it grow and help it to grow, That's a teaching in itself. Like, what do I do with this tree, right? Well, you have to water it, and it's got to be planted. Some can be planted in the shade, others are planted in more sunlight, all those kinds of things, right? It's important to the growth and the health of that plant or that tree. Yeah, and to have your children or grandchildren, see that tree after it's taking root. I mean, there's another time when you can relate to your children and let them know how that tree has taken root in Mother Earth, you know, feeding off of the good soil that the Mother Earth has provided for us and for that tree.
Mm-hmm. And is there maybe anything else? I know we're talking about the tree planting, but and you had mentioned just going out on the land. Is that maybe just the basis of something somebody can do? Like, I'm just curious if somebody at home is like, oh, how can I, celebrate the season? Is it?
Well, the thing that we used to love doing when I was a child, when I was a young boy growing up, we used to like going out a little bit later than this, when the ice starts moving, like breaking up in the river or the lake, to go out there and go and catch fish when they come up to the rapids. We used to love going down into the rapids there and jumping in the water and it's like a bear going catching a fish, and taking it home. And we used to really enjoy doing that. And my kids don't do it as much as we used to do it almost every day, like for a little bit of time in the spring when the river would open and the rapids would be flowing.
Right.
Yeah. And you had to be careful because the rapids get kind of swift with all the water that's coming over the rapids, and you got to be careful when you're doing it. But that's part of your culture, and that's how we enjoyed doing it. It didn't cost anything, and we went and got our meal.
Yeah. Well, and why is it still so important that we celebrate this season in this time and maybe in this day and age? Why is it still important that we still celebrate these things?
Well, it really has to do with the relationship to the land and to everything around us, right? The spirit is everywhere out there. The spirit of the land, the spirit of the water, the spirit of the animals, the spirit of, the birds, the spirit of the fish. It's all there, right? And when you have that spirit that is so pure and fresh and there, that you can relate to it, in a spiritual way. But you also can pray too. Like we also encourage, praying when you're out there in the Creator's world. That you can go out and you can say your prayers out there if you wish to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And just give thanks, to creation.
Yeah. Well, Norman, thank you so much for joining us here today and educating us a little bit on why the season's so important and what, a few things of what people can maybe do to celebrate the season. So thank you so much, Miigwech, for your time and educating us a little bit here.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you, and it's nice to share my story a little bit with the spring equinox. And it's time to enjoy life again and just enjoy that new and fresh life that's coming.
Yeah.